The saloon door swung open with a crash, and every poker game, every whiskey glass, froze mid-air. Dust swirled in through the entrance as a tall cowboy stepped inside. Boots caked with mud, hat pulled low, eyes like a storm about to break. His name was Colt Maddox, a rancher, gunfighter, and the kind of man people whispered about but never challenged. The air inside the saloon was thick with cigar smoke and greed. Every man in the room had come to witness the same thing: the auction of an Apache woman, treated like an animal in a market. Laughter and whispers rippled through the crowd as the sheriff stood on a crate, waving a piece of paper that would transfer ownership to the highest bidder. The woman stood beside him, wrists bound with coarse rope, eyes sharp as a blade. Her name was Naya, and though her hands were tied, her spirit wasn't. She didn't look down or cry. She stared at each man who dared meet her gaze until they flinched and looked away. There was something unbroken in her silence that made them uncomfortable. Through the open door, the sound of boots striking the dusty ground echoed like thunder. Colt Maddox stepped in, his shadow slicing through the smoky air. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face half hidden under a weathered hat. He was a man who spoke little but meant every word. A hush fell over the saloon. People knew Colt. They knew his temper, his aim, his reputation. He wasn't one to meddle in other people's business, but tonight, his eyes locked on Naya, and something shifted. The sheriff cleared his throat, grinning nervously. "Maddox, didn't think you'd show. We're just getting started. The Indian girl here's up for bid. Strong, young." Colt cut him off, tossing a pouch of coins onto the table. The clang of silver silenced the room. "That enough?" he asked flatly. The sheriff blinked, then nodded. "Well, reckon that makes you the winner." He scribbled on the paper, stamped it, and handed it to Colt like a trophy. "She's yours now." The men around them began to laugh. One called out, "Better keep a leash on her, Maddox. That wild blood'll bite." Another added, "Hope you brought a whip." Their words crawled through the room like snakes, but Colt didn't flinch. He turned to Naya. The sheriff moved to untie her wrists, and when he did, she didn't move. She just stared at Colt, her jaw tight, her voice barely more than a whisper. "You paid for me. Now do it." Every sound in the room died. The poker chips stopped clattering. The whiskey glasses froze midair. All eyes were on Colt, waiting for the next move. His hand tightened around the paper. For a heartbeat, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he tore the document in two. The sound of ripping paper cut through the silence sharper than a gunshot. He threw the pieces onto the floor. "She ain't anyone's to own," Colt said, voice low but steady. "Not mine, not yours. Not this town's." The sheriff gaped. "That's not how it works, Maddox. The law—" "Then the law's wrong," Colt interrupted. His eyes met Naya's, not as a master, but as a man asking permission. "You're free to go," he said. "Ride with me if you want. Or don't." Naya hesitated. Then she took his hat, a silent gesture of trust, and placed it on her head. "Then I ride," she said quietly. Together, they walked out of the saloon, leaving the stunned faces behind. That night, the town of Silver Creek learned that freedom could not be sold, and respect could not be bought. Outside the saloon, the night air hit them like a slap, cool, raw, and carrying the scent of dust and pine. The world beyond the swinging doors was quiet, the kind of silence that felt heavier than any noise. Naya stood on the wooden porch, her bare feet bleeding where the shackles had rubbed her skin raw. The moonlight cast a pale glow on her face, and for the first time, Colt saw something flicker in her eyes. Not fear, but exhaustion held together by sheer pride. Colt untied the last bit of rope from her wrists. She didn't thank him. She didn't even look at him. She rubbed her wrists gently, the marks red and angry against her copper skin. "You paid silver," she said after a long pause, her voice steady. "You could have kept me." Colt adjusted his hat, his gaze distant. "Didn't buy you to keep you," he muttered. "Bought you so no one else could." She studied him, as if trying to read what kind of man would risk a town's wrath for someone like her. "Why?" she asked finally. He took a deep breath, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Because I've seen too many chains in my time. Some on hands, Some on hearts. Figured one less wouldn't hurt. The words hung in the air, awkward and heavy. Naya didn't respond, but something in her softened, just a little. He led her toward his horse, a strong chestnut stallion with a saddle worn from years of riding. He extended his hand to help her up, but she ignored it, gripping the reins and mounting on her own. Colt couldn't help the faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Figures," he murmured. "You don't need no help from me." They rode out of Silver Creek together, the saloon lights fading behind them, replaced by the endless sprawl of desert and moonlight. Neither spoke for miles. The only sounds were the rhythm of hooves against dirt and the whisper of wind through the dry grass. When they stopped by a creek at dawn, Naya stepped down first, kneeling by the water to wash her wounds. Colt dismounted a few feet away, giving her space. He built a small fire, not looking at her as he spoke. "You got people still out there?" She didn't answer right away. The water reflected the pink blush of sunrise as she said softly, "They're gone. Soldiers burned our camp. Took my brother. The rest." Her voice cracked, but she swallowed it down. "The rest didn't make it." Colt's jaw tightened. He'd seen what the army did to her kind, and worse, he'd helped once. That truth sat like poison in his chest, one he wasn't ready to confess yet. "I'm sorry," he said simply. Naya looked at him, searching his eyes for the lie, but found none. "Sorry doesn't bring the dead back," she whispered. "No," he replied, tossing another log on the fire. "But maybe it keeps you from joining them." The flames flickered between them. Two strangers bound by loss, mistrust, and something neither could name. She sat near the fire, still guarded, while he leaned against a rock, hat tilted low. In that fragile dawn silence, a strange truce was born. Naya would follow him, for now. Not because she trusted him, but because for the first time since her capture, someone had treated her like a person. And though neither of them said it aloud, both knew that what began as an act of rebellion was turning into something far more dangerous. A journey that would test everything they believed about justice, mercy, and the meaning of freedom.